when I found her in a little village. Now she's working in STEM at a bank in North Carolina, talking to me about she doesn't know if she needs to keep that job because it doesn't fulfill her passion. I said, girl, you better keep that job and worry about your passion later. Are you kidding me? Mama, you say we should be passion-filled. Oh, no. That's when you're 35. 20, you trying to pay the rent. And get yourself a ticket up there to the show. There you go. Thank you so much. That's what you do in your 20s. And this is what you need to know. In your 20s, jobs that you don't like, I was a reporter for many years and I did not like it. And I could hear my father's voice saying, you better keep that job. 22, making 22,000. But I didn't like it. I just kept, and then one day they wanted to demote me and put me on a talk show. That changed everything. But the 20s are about figuring it out. And when you're at a job that you don't really like, that's information for you. That's information that I really don't want to be doing this the rest of my life, to start thinking about what do I want? Information. Don't quit your job though, till you have another one. 30s are about solidifying the plan. Solidifying that. In my 30s, actually, I came to Chicago 29 and turned 30 the same month that I started AM Chicago. So the 30s is just getting started. All of us know that. Any 30-year-olds in here? So you're beginning to connect to your own source of balance. And then the 40s and 50s. Any 40-year-olds in here? 40, let me just tell you, 44 is when it gets really good. It starts to heat up. If you're not to 44 yet, just chill. God is good, you're gonna get there. 44, you start to, isn't this right, Jan? You start to step into your own. 44, you stop doing everything everybody else wants you to do. 44, you start to really own your power. So, and by the time you get to the 50s, any 50-year-olds in here? Oh. It's so great. 50s are so great. I remember when I turned 50, Maya wrote this poem for me called Continue. You can download it and find it. It's beautiful. That poem was written just for me. And she said to me, babe, the 50s are everything you've been meaning to be. The 50s are everything you've been meaning to be and were meant to be. And now I sit in the space of 66. And it's fantastic. It's about, for me, contentment and satisfaction, and as I said to you earlier, purpose. I feel stronger than ever. I am well, and it is well with my soul. That's what you want. That's what you want. You want the peace, honey. And all the stuff that everybody else sees, and all the glamour and red carpet, what you want is the peace. And I've earned the right to be just as I am, more secure, more solidly myself than I've ever been. So I've reached that moment, actually, where Derek Walcott describes in his beautiful poem, Love After Love. He says, the time will come when with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart. take down all those old letters from the past, the love letters from the bookshelf and the photographs and the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit and feast on your life. That's what I want for you. My life, just like yours, has been marked by struggle. There's nobody in here over 20 that hadn't had some struggles, some hard times, some difficulties, some challenges. Mine's been marked by miracles, just like yours. You couldn't get to where you are right now without the hand of grace upon your life.
That's right.
And so, when you're in the struggle times, that's when you gotta remember the grace times. Remember all the times you've been carried to this gracious moment right here. My life is such a miracle. Y'all know, my mother and father never married. And my father, he's just really, he's pretty frank about it. My mother had one idea about what was going on, but my father said she was wearing a poodle skirt. Y'all know what that is, a poodle skirt? 20-year-olds, I know you don't know. Let me explain that to you. So there's a picture of my mother, and it's one of these big white skirts, and when you turn around, you could see underneath it. And my father said he wanted to know what was up under there. And she was leaving from school one day, and he had a Buick, and he talked her into letting him drive her home. They stopped along the side of a dirt road. There was an oak tree, and I happened that one time. That was the one and only time they were ever together. And everybody said that was illegitimate. Everybody said, oh wow, born out of wedlock, all that stuff. That was a one time. So I grew up in this house, actually, with my grandmother. There's a picture of, there's me and my mother before she went north for the Great Migration to find a better life for herself. So I was raised by my grandmother in this house. It's like a wooden shotgun house, swing on the porch. And I went back and forth between, after my grandmother died, when I was 6, I went from my mother's house in Milwaukee to my father's house, back to my mother's house, back to my father's house. And the second time I went to my father's house, I was 14, and he was living in a brick house. And I remember being so excited because all my life I'd lived either with my mother on welfare or with my grandmother in this shack house in Mississippi. And so my father had this brick house on Arrington Street where total square footage is 1,010 square feet. I could put this house in my current living room right now. But at the time that I saw this house, I was so overjoyed because I thought I finally made it because we had a brick house. My father lived in that house on Arrington Street until I was able to buy him another house in a gated community and all the things you do when you're a daughter who becomes successful. But I never forgot what it meant to move to that brick house and to have this dream of being in a brick house and then living in one. And when I moved to Baltimore, I had a friend who was a producer. Arlene Weiner was the richest person I knew, and her husband was a lawyer. And I went to Arlene Weiner's house once, and in the driveway was a Mercedes, a BMW, I think it was a Corvette. I went, damn, Arlene's rich. She's got all these cars. Her children have cars. I never heard such a thing, these white people. Unbelievable. I got inside Arlene's house, ranch house, and looking out, I could see all these trees in the yard. And I thought, whoa, Arlene got cars and trees. If I ever get some money, I'm gonna get me some trees. I had this vision of having 6 trees in the yard, because that's how many trees Arlene Weiner had. And as I tell you, you hold the vision inside yourself. Years later, I mean 25, 30 years later, I am standing in my kitchen in Santa Barbara, and I look out the window and I see the 6 trees. I see the 6 trees. That's standing right at my kitchen sink. I walked outside, and here's the deal. I could dream the 6 dreams. I'm gonna show you all this because I'll go around showing people my house. But if you walk outside and you look at my house from where you enter the front gate, this is my front yard. And I show you that picture to tell you that I could dream of the 6, but God had a bigger dream. Yeah. God had a bigger dream. God had a bigger dream for me, and God has a bigger dream for you. Mm-hmm. You dream the dream, you hold the vision, and you hand that vision up, over, and out beyond yourself. To the person, the entity, the forces of life that dreamed your life. You give that dream, you surrender that dream to that which is greater than yourself, and you will live an unimaginable life. God could dream a bigger dream than you could ever hold for yourself. So I want you to leave here today dreaming a bigger dream. Wherever you are, whatever you held for yourself, not big enough. Not big enough. What is the dream you hold for yourself? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. You all know the song. That is my life's theme. You know my struggles, I don't know yours, but I know you had them. And sometimes what holds us back is holding on to the past. And if you hear anything today, hear what I've said, what Tracy said, what you know in your heart, that your life is happening right now. And forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different. Whatever has happened that is holding you back, people didn't love you the way you should have been loved. They weren't able to give you what you felt you needed. It's all right because you're still here now. You're still here now. And the thing that keeps you from moving forward is holding on to what woulda, coulda, shoulda been. I want you to leave here emboldened for the now and what is to come. And I share this story with you. My mother and I had a really complicated relationship because I didn't really know her. When I first saw that picture that you saw of us in the front yard, I was surprised because I have no memory of my mother being in the house with my grandmother and I. If you put me in a court of law, I would have said, I never knew my mother in that house. I never saw my mother in that house. And when I moved to Milwaukee to be with my mother after my grandmother became ill and could not take care of me, my first strong memory of my mother is walking into a home where she was boarding with my half-sister. So it was the first time I met my half-sister. So I was uprooted from my grandmother. Nobody told me why all of a sudden I'm now gonna be put in a car and driven to Milwaukee. And you're gonna meet your mother. You're gonna be with your mother. And I walked in that house, and Mrs. Miller, who ran the boarding house, was not a white woman, but she could pass for white. And she did not like brown-skinned people. Even though my mother was brown-skinned, but she had my half-sister who was very light-skinned. And Ms. Miller adored her, my sister Pat, and was the godmother to my sister Pat. I knew for the first time, it was the first time I experienced colorism and understood that there was a thing about the color of your skin. As the moment I walked in that house, I could feel that Mrs. Miller did not want me there. And on the very first night of moving to the north and being in the house with my mother, Mrs. Miller said, "She can't come in the house." And my mother in that moment did not stand up for me. My mother let me sleep out on the porch because she was afraid to lose her place as a boarder there. And so she slept with my sister in the other room, and I had a little couch pallet thing out on the porch. And something inside me at 6 years old in that moment knew that I was going to have to fend for myself. And what I did was I called on Jesus. Because my grandmother had given me Jesus. And I literally asked him to build a wall, a fence around me, because this little porch, I just thought anybody could come in and get me, or I had all these visions of the boogeyman and all this stuff happening. And I asked Jesus to place his angels around me. And from that moment on, my mother and I really had a challenged relationship. When I became famous, I did the thing that I thought a daughter was supposed to do, because the Bible says, honor your father and your mother, that your days will be long. So I retired my mother, I retired my father, I gave them a salary, I gave them Mercedes, I did the whole thing. My father refused to take the retirement. He's still in the barbershop today in Nashville. You can go there, you can get a haircut. I wouldn't let him shave me if I were you. But I had a tumultuous, it was challenged. So I did all the things, but we never were really connected. And it wasn't until my mother was about to pass. This is in 2018. And those of you who watch the Oprah show know, toward the end of the series of the show, I had a half-sister show up who none of us in the family knew existed, because my mother had given her up for adoption. And my mother didn't want Patricia to find her or us, and denied that this was her daughter, until Patricia, my new sister, decided that she was going to have a DNA test and found one of my nieces, and the whole long story. Anyway, she kept it a secret, did not go to the tabloids, until she realized that my mother was her mother. Never went to the tabloids. So she came forward. We all now know she's our sister. My mother's still denying it. When my mother became ill, it was that daughter that she wanted to deny that ended up taking care of her. Oh. So the way life works, I am in California. My sister Patricia calls and she said, "You better get here," because she just hugged me. And she said, it was a real hug too, so you better hurry. She said it was such a real hug that the nurse said, "I'm praying for your family." So I fly to Milwaukee to try to arrange hospice care, do all that. I was scheduled to be in Chicago with Michelle Obama, who was doing the first night of her book tour. So I went to Milwaukee, then went to Chicago, then went back to Milwaukee. And I knew that my mother was preparing to transition, even though she was still coherent and speaking well, actually. And I couldn't figure out what to say about all these years where I felt like you treated me like a bank. and not like a daughter. Couldn't figure out how to say, I forgive you. So I'm sitting there and I'm reading the hospice manual, y'all. My name is Oprah Winfrey, and I'm reading the hospice manual about what to say to your loved one. It said, talk about the times that you shared, the fond memories. Share stories of things your loved one taught you. Okay. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I had a speaking engagement in Boston. I left, and I knew that was going to be the last time I'd see her. I know she wasn't going to make it another week. I couldn't think of what to say. So I just said, bye. I'll be seeing you. She said, okay. So I left and I went to the speaking engagement, and I was getting ready to fly back home to California, and the voice, still voice that's inside me, that's inside you, that's inside all of us, said, what a hypocrite you are. If anybody else were going through this, you would say, go back and close it. Do the thing you need to do. So you can live with yourself. I went back to Milwaukee for the third time that week. I go in the house, my mother's sitting in a room, it's 87 degrees. Watching Steve Harvey on a loop. I didn't know there was a game show channel. Steve Harvey and Days of Our Lives. It's hot in that room. I'm trying to think of what to say. I started giving her water, ice cubes. Can't think of anything to say. I sat in that room all day long. Still couldn't think of anything to say. I went to bed that night and I prayed, God, help me, speak for me. God, help me, speak for me. God, help me. And woke up the next morning and accidentally hit my phone, and on the phone playing was Mahalia Jackson, Precious Lord. I said, whoa, how did that happen? I walk into the hot room where my mother's already up, and I say, do you want to hear Mahalia Jackson? She said, yes. I said, oh, better yet, I'm going to call Wentley Phipps, one of my friends, famous gospel singer. I called Wentley, I said, Wentley, my mother's dying. Would you sing Precious Lord? He sat at his kitchen table on a Saturday morning and sang a cappella, Precious Lord. Y'all know the words, take my hand. Yes. Lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weary, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. And as he was singing, I could see the tears form, and I could see a way in. And he finished and he prayed for our family, and he said, I pray for your peace, no fear, just peace, no fear, just peace. And that gave me a way in. I said, what are you afraid of? She said, oh, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. I said, well, what are you looking forward to? Who do you want to see on the other side? And she said, I want to see my mother. I said, I know she's going to be there waiting for you. And I said, I want you to know that you can go when you're ready, because you did what you came to do. And I want you to know that when you were 17 years old and you got pregnant with this baby, everybody told you you should let that baby go. And everybody told you you should have an abortion. They knew somebody who could help you get rid of that baby. You held on. And I want to thank you for keeping this baby. There are many times when I felt that you were not the mother I needed you to be. And now I know that God gave me the mother I needed to have to become who I am. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for that, and you can go in peace. And my sister Patricia comes into the room and she said, I want you to know that even though you gave me away, look who's here. Look who's here standing with you, and I'll be here till the end. We are your daughters. We are your daughters, standing here with you. And I will tell you, the peace and freedom I received in that moment, there's not a price on it. There's not a price on it. I let it go. I let every moment where I felt that I didn't get what I should have gotten, every moment where I felt like I was being used, every moment where I thought you looked at me being abused and you didn't stand up and you didn't do anything, I let it all go. And that's the reason I now live as a free woman. I want you to leave here free. If there's anybody that you need to forgive, do it. Do it. Say what needs to be said so that you no longer have to hold on to the hope that the past could have, would have been any different. We all long to be well, to find balance. We all have a more. If you're still breathing, there's more. And I'm here to tell you that whatever has happened to you in the past was happening for you. It was happening to strengthen you. It was happening to give you power. And every time someone let you down, every time you felt like you lost your way, every time you felt like, what is going on? I don't even know. Every time the doctor said, yes, it is cancer. You were building strength. And strength times strength, times strength, times strength, times strength equals what, Cheryl? Power. Look at how powerful you are. Look at how powerful you are. Universal energy, the forces of life, all the names we call God in the universe are moving you in a new direction. That's why you came here today. You know there's more. You know there's more. And you know that this is 2020 and it's a new decade and the world is flipped all upside down. And you know that the only way you're going to save the world is to start with yourself. You get to decide. You get to decide what that's going to look like for you. You start the healing with yourself, and you move it into your family, your children. You don't have to go to Africa and to India to save the world's children. Start in your own kitchen. Start, you don't have to go out and try to build other relationships. Start in your own bedroom. And then tell me what it is you want to do with your one wild and precious life. Mary Oliver says, what is it you want to do? The fact that you are here means that you are ready to be well. I thank you, Dallas. I thank you for giving yourself this day. Don't waste another minute wondering if there is more. Define it, manifest it, surrender it. Surrender that dream to the power that holds your life. Are you ready to activate your vision? Say it out loud with me. Dallas. Claim your power,